The army. There were too many Roman citizens for all the men to be in the army. The legions which made up the army varied in numbers, from 2 to 10,000 men. These came under 4 army commands, guarding the frontiers. The legions were not normally stationed in the interior of the empire. A very special body of soldiers, the praetorians, who were the personal guards of the emperor, were stationed in Rome itself. They were bigger, smarter, and more splendid than other soldiers. The praetorians were often involved in plots to overthrow one emperor and make a new one. But in the time of the Emperor Antonius Pius, they were contented and well paid. Most soldiers joined the Roman army for the sake of earning a living, and for the interest of the travel which it afforded. They were never well paid, and part of their wages was given in bars of salt. Their uniform was a loincloth, thick tunic, leather jerkin, iron breastplates, an iron or bronze helmet. They had thick leather sandals held by strung straps, which also acted as a protection to their legs. Packs were carried on their backs, and these included a short spade, which could be used for throwing up a defensive earthwork quickly if they had to camp in hostile territory at night. Usually there were wagons to carry the heavy baggage, but if necessary, a soldier was expected to carry up to 80 pounds of equipment with him. A day's march was between 20 and 30 miles, according to the kind of country. About 40 days marching would take one from Rome to Britain. Army life was not hard. Within the empire, soldiers would find good quarters and food ready for them. And on the frontiers, there were great fortified camps well organised for the exactly regulated life in the army. The army came quickly into action when the tribes across the frontiers made a raid. The smoke of a burning village, or the arrival of a messenger calling for help, would be a signal for the cavalry to set out. If the party of raiders was small, the cavalry would charge them and drive them back over the borders. Such small bands of wild raiders could not stand up to the organised Roman troops. Their spears, thrown from a distance, were warded off easily, and it was impossible for them to escape the thrust of a Roman sword at close quarters. A big organised raid by the warriors of a whole tribe was a different matter. The cavalry then became scouts, reporting on the movements of the enemy, while a legion of foot soldiers would march to some point at which they could force the raiders to come to battle. If time permitted, they would camp and throw up an earthwork which would protect their stores, and perhaps tempt the enemy to attack a fortified position where he was sure to be beaten back. But more often, they would have to attack the barbarians at once. After a volley of heavy throwing spears had opened the way, the Roman soldiers marched shield to shield, pushing their way into the enemy, stabbing and cutting with their short swords. If one man in the front line fell, another would step in to replace him. This organised force would break up most opposition. As soon as the enemy were busy fighting the legionaries, there would be charges on their flanks by the cavalry until the raiders broke up and fled back to their forests.